Hello everyone. Phoenix61 here. How is it going? We've got your World of Warships Legends shenanigans for the day here. We are in the Drake. This is a Tier 8 British, what are these, light cruiser, heavy cruiser, I don't know, right? But this is, you don't see a lot of Drakes out there, and I'll go into why I think that is and my own personal thoughts and feelings on the Drake here. And yes, little Drake equation nerd reference here for the thumbnail. But so I'll talk more about it because I've got two games that I'm going to feature. This first one, actually, I'm going to say maybe a recommendation on what not to do and how not to play this ship. But what's funny here in this example is it actually works out for us, right? So I think my biggest gripe with the Drake and a lot of British like cruisers especially is you don't get propulsion mod as an option, right? So start going, speeding up and slowing down is just brutal. And then the armor scheme feels a little lacking as well because it hurts bad when you get hit no matter how angled you are or anything, right? So but here I get taunted by this Velos here. I'm looking at how close my sonar range is for picking up ships, right? And I'm like, all right, he's pushing up. He's focused on somebody else. I'm going to move up and attack him, right? And, I knew there was the Yamato battleship out there. I did not know about the Schroeder, and there's still a smoke screen back there, so that there's probably something else back there, too. But I'm like, all right, like I'm super committed now. Like I'm gonna have to deal with this, right? So sent the torpedoes. Got a couple of good hits on, the Velos, right? So he's gone. Somebody else finished him off. But this Schroeder, he's pushing up hard too. And now, granted, he's a little bit better of a ship to be this kind of aggressive, but we do have torpedoes and he doesn't, right? So I go to the single launcher since he's pointed right at us, and then with like, this Brandisi shows up, right? So that's part of the smoke screen there. We'll switch to AP since he's broadside, but he's gonna, we took a nasty, nasty hit there, which I was kind of surprised that it took that long for me to take that bad of a hit given our positioning. And then, he tries to shoot us through the bow to try and get rid of us, but we had switched to AP, but then somebody else hit him as well, right? Like, he was making the same mistake I was, right? Broad coming in, cruiser pushing up too hard, right? Like, but somehow we survived this encounter. And one thing that I will give the Drake is if you look at, I already used one heal, right? But if you look at our heal availability right now, right, it's almost gets us back up to half. Now, that seems great on paper, but the problem is you can go from full health to zero health so dang quick that it's like, well, if you're dead, it doesn't matter how much you could heal, right? Like, so I was so close to death there anyway, it may not have even mattered, right? But this was just like a fun, exciting moment, but like I said, like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna be dead. Right, I would have been back at port already, right? There was a little bit of luck, we made the right moves after we realized our mistake, right? We committed to just doing as much as we could in the few seconds of life that I assumed I would have left, right? But, so I've got another game where I play a little bit better, and I'll kind of dig into a little bit more of like the strategy that I feel like you have to do with the Drake and why I may or may not really like it, right? Like, it's cruiser, I really want to like it. The HE guns, the HE shells on this thing slap. Like, they hit good and the fires are great on these things, right? So so here's probably an example of how you're more supposed to play the ship, right? Is getting, kind of trying to keep the attention off of you, especially up against a big battleship like Yamato, right? So keep yourself out of spotting, right? Don't be spotted, right? You notice we're unspotted right here, right now. None of the enemy ships have line of sight on us to be able to see us, even when we're firing our guns, right? So we get good chunky damage hits. We do a lot of damage to modules, like secondary and AA battery stuff on that ship you could see was popping up as we were getting those hits, right? And then the potential for triggering fires is pretty decent on these things. So, like, it's good. The guns are there. Yeah, we get double fire there, took out some AA and took out some secondaries, right? So The HE shells are great on this thing, so that's how I've built into it, and I definitely would recommend, that's the way to go with it, right? But man, like this is one ship where I struggle to have good games. I think this might be my first video out there, at least not on live stream, right? I think I've played it a couple times on live stream and was like, I need to practice with this thing, right? But we'll go on fast forward through most of the rest of this game because it does get a little bit uneventful here, right? So, but like my team conquered, and I think I mean, a little bit of that is due to just the speedy momentum that we had on our flank, which I would say maybe is somewhat thanks to me, like just because I managed to live through it, right? But yeah, I get a couple of shots and like on the Shimikaze, and I think that cruiser too got a couple of just hits, but just nothing damaged, nothing substantial as far as damage, right? So we end up with the five-fisted banners, so we get the helping hand medal, right? So that game in particular, we got fourth place, and I guess I agree with that, right? I don't. I mean, it was fun, right? I had fun like being dumb, but so here I am. I'm gonna try and play a little bit smarter with this ship, right? So we had success, and part of it was just like dumb luck. We took advantage. We did the best in the situation that I put myself in, I guess you would say, right? So, but here we see a Takahashi out there. You guys know me. I love me some Takahashi. So we know that he's got super duper long range torpedoes from that ship. And this is going to be why he's going to kind of circle through here and turn broadside, because he's going to send his torpedoes. And you got to keep in mind, like, he's 11 kilometers away right now. That's, the travel time for those torpedoes. It's going to be a hot minute here. So, but we'll take our shots at him. And yeah, you can see you're doing damage to secondary and AA batteries. We're doing a decent amount of damage with the HE shells, right? So most of the time I use HE shells. And so I think the exception's going to be, if we've got maybe a double fire on like a battleship or something, and we don't want to trigger more fires because we want to, maybe he's using fight fire with fire, and if you trigger that third one, it'll go, they'll all go away, right? So we'll occasionally switch to AP for something like that, or nice juicy broadside shots on other cruisers. AP is going to work decent in some of those examples as well, right? So you guys know me, I'm not like super into knowing the thickness of each ship's armor. Like, that's just too technical for me. I'm a trial and error kind of person, right? All right, AP didn't work, I switched to HE, right? So, which works a little better on a cruiser versus a battleship where it takes a little bit longer reload time. But anyway, yeah, so here I'm trying to take the approach of let's try and keep attention off of us, and let's do DPS or DPM, whatever you want to call it. Like let's damage farm whoever's spotted that we can. Now, I got to give credit to this game, to our destroyer player on this flank, and partially the fact that I'm not doing a good job of supporting him, but I'm trying to have a decent game with this ship, right? So, like, it's this give and take, but like he's calling out help with the destroyer over there, but he's being smart. He's not pushing, I'm looking at the mini map right now. Our allied destroyer's not pushing up too hard. We're outnumbered on this side, right? Like, they've got 5 ships over here, including their destroyer. If you look at the minimap, right? So I'm like, I want to help out with the L-beam. I want to help out with the cruiser. I just don't have good shots on them based on where I've put myself, right? So, but this L-beam does start coming out a little wider, and so I'm able to back up, very slowly, albeit, right? And get some shots off on him, right? So I was like, all right, that's helping out. But right, I felt bad for not, I felt like I wasn't supporting my destroyer. I do think that, like, he's doing a good job. He's keeping his distance. But I think at this point you should realize too that, all right, it's 5-on-4 over here. I mean, they've got they're pushing up. So let the enemy team push up, move away, take care of these ships as they come in one at a time, as they push up. That typically gives you an advantage, right? Ships pushing into you, most of the time you're going to have the upper hand in those examples. Take this Picardy, for example, right? He's pushed up, so now he's getting, focused on by several of my teammates, including myself. and so he's going to go down fairly quickly. So here I think our destroyer player, look at the mini-map, he's reading the situation, right? He sees this Bacardi pushing up. He knows that, you know, allied blue ships are going to have the tendency to focus on whatever ship has pushed up the most, and so he's moved away, right? Like, and so super smart move. Like I said, I gotta give it to this destroyer player for making the right moves, at least here early on in this match. And you know, realizing that we're a little bit outnumbered, or he would be a little bit outnumbered if he were to try and muscle it out in that zone. So he's moved away, right? Like, come back, keep your ship alive, fight another day, right? And we're able to get nice, easy shots on this Bacardi because, well, he's looking at somebody else, right? So, and here's a good example where I probably could have tried AP shells, and I just didn't think to switch until it was too late, right? He had at least a couple of fires on him. He was kind of broadside to us. That would have been a good scenario to switch to AP. And then we did send the torpedoes. I was kind of hoping I sent them a little short of like the suggested line. So I think if he would have survived, he probably would have moved past them and we probably wouldn't have hit him. But like, I was thinking he would maybe maneuver or slow down, like, right, like realize his mistake, but he just continued to YOLO push and committed. And so those torpedoes probably would have missed if he hadn't died, or, you know, as soon as he did, right? So, but yeah, here's where I'm going to complain about the prop mod, the lack thereof of prop mod on some of these British ships, because, you know, like just getting, you know, trying to get myself turned and in position, you know, if I'm trying to utilize island cover and not be spotted, maneuvering to get your shots off is just so slow, or it gets so slow going because you just can't accelerate fast and you can't decelerate fast and you can't reverse fast, right? So it's just like, it's a bit of a struggle bus, right? So here I'm like, all right, if this Kansas keeps coming around this outer side, maybe I can back up and get some shots on him, right? So perfect example where I'm like, man, I wish I could get in there quicker to help my teammate out, right? But you can't just go into that zone. I can't go into that zone with this Kansas and another battleship out there, because they'll just waste me in, you know, 1-2 salvos at the most, right? No matter how angled you get, right? So it's just, I kind of dislike how conservative I've had to play with this ship in order to have decent games, right? So I give up on the Kansas because he looks like he's going to keep pushing back towards the inside of the map. So now I've got to move forward, and as you can see, it takes a hot minute to get going again, right? So I'm sitting here, and in my mind, I'm like, my guns are completely useless right now. I'm completely useless right now because I don't have anything to shoot at, right? So, and then here we go, we get this shot on this Bismarck. We lose our destroyer, right? That it was playing so well early on. And then we're gonna lose this Rosia that's pushed up too much, right? You've got a destroyer and 2 battleships, and you're gonna go up through the middle of the zone, right? We all saw what happened to the Picardy on their team, right? Like, so, and then yeah, like, since this Bismarck's moving out, now I'm spotted. Now he's got line of sight on me when I fire my guns, right? So, and just watch, like, Bismarck doesn't have, you know, a lot of guns and doesn't have the best accuracy. I think he gets 1 bullet here. Boom. Like, that's not too bad, but that's a good chunk of health for 1 bullet, right? And then here comes a couple more. So it looked like we took 2 hits there, but we were a little bit better angled, right? So it's just like health disappears quite quickly with this ship. I don't know, maybe my strategy's wrong, maybe my build's wrong. Like, this is one that, like, I'm open to suggestion, guys. Like, but these are my thoughts and feelings on why you don't see a lot of Drakes out there in, you know, in the game, because, like, I feel like it's lacking something, right? It needs, I don't know, maybe, like, I would love it to have a little bit better armor, be able to, like, get away with, like, angling some, right? This Massachusetts calling for help, and I'm like, dude, I can't spot, like, I will die. That Kansas will kill me the moment I start spotting it for you, right? So I'm like, you're Massachusetts, like, go out and take some hits. Granted, he was at, like, half health too at the time, but anyway, like, yeah, so a little bit better armor I think would help. I honestly think, like, the, you know, in the slot where we have the, you know, for consumables, where we've got the fighter plane launcher, right, maybe, like, either smoke or radar, or the choice between the two. I think that would bring this up to par, in my opinion, right? Like, giving it a little bit more tech. And then, so yeah, we're spotted here, so we've seen the Elbing destroyer on the enemy team has been spotted. All right, here's like the salvo from the Kansas. Just watch this. Boosh. All right, that wasn't too bad, right? We're angled. I've just complained about, you know, being angled and still taking big damage, right? But like, if he hits us in the right spot, like we'll take a citadel through our face, right? So yeah. So Elbean's off to our left, and I've kind of, you know, don't really have, you know, my assumption here is there's another destroyer in our zone here that hasn't been spotted, and so that's why I tripped the sonar. And sure enough, I tripped it not quite in time here because like we see the torpedoes early. Now granted, I could have like made the mistake and took some more by if I hadn't, you know, tripped that, but yeah, there's a good chunk there too. But the heal is keeping us in the game sometimes with these big hits that happen against us. Yeah, so we'll back up and see if we can't get shots on this Elbean. Our poor carrier player has, you know, didn't, you know, manage his ship position very well, right? I would say should have known that that destroyer was there and he should have been moving away from that situation. But anyway, regardless, right? So we're dealing with a destroyer over here, the Elbean in C, plus this Kansas out here, and the Kansas is the only thing that we've got spotted at the moment. And I just can't push up on these destroyers because if I do, then this Kansas is going to get a good, you know, a good angle on us or right or whatever. Like I've got to be cautious with that Kansas still out there, right? So there's one other battleship too that probably would be able to, you know, with, you know, look at the mini map where he was last spotted, probably would be able to shoot us as well. But Kansas is getting a little low. Let's move up. I want to be able to try and help this battleship with this other destroyer wherever he may be. And then if we can just get a couple of decent hits on this Kansas and or a fire or two, right, we might be able to get rid of him. So we'll focus on him. We'll focus on getting the zone capped. We'll try and dodge bullets as best we can. This thing does have good rudder shift, right? So since you don't have an option for propulsion mod for one of the module slots, I typically pick the rudder shift then. So we get the assisted capture there. We've got all the zones at the moment. The Elbean gave up on the C cap for some reason. I wasn't really paying attention. Then we've got the fire going on the Kansas. We'll take another shot at him. But yeah, like the guns are great. Like we do decent chunky damage and trigger fires pretty well, and we damage modules quite a bit too. So we'll I'm turning hard left here as we notice that Kansas took that shot, right? Which if we hadn't done that, probably could have died from that shot. And then he does get the front guns off on us at the last second here, and we do skip away with a tiny bit of health left still. I'm thinking that their destroyer is off in that direction off to our starboard side. Their battleship is just a little bit out of my range. Massachusetts is griping that he's spotted. I get it. So I'm guessing that destroyer's off to our right. So I'm going to move up, right? I'm not going to just chill here because if I do, he'll probably send torpedoes and hit us with those. So we'll move up and we'll see if we go unspotted as we come around, you know, as we get through this island, and we do. So now I'm kind of thinking maybe he's up out in front of us, you know, after like the direction I'm looking now. So either or, right? There's potential there. But it's down to two destroyers. We're whooping butt on points now at this point since my teammates played objectives quite well. And then, yeah, we do see some torpedoes over there, right? So we know this destroyer's around here somewhere, right? So I'm going to like, all right, I'm closer to this guy. I'll see if we can hunt him down. I think it was a Somers, right? And so who still has not been spotted, you know, in this game, right? So we'll circle around, see if we can find him, but then we do get the win off of points here. So we'll take a look at the leaderboard for this one. Again, we do a little bit better here, and then I'll go through the build and how I have the commander set up. We do get the top spot there, right? Playing objectives helps with your XP earnings at the end, so 2300 XP isn't a great score, but it was enough for us to be the #1 player, right? So 148,000 damage done. And then, so yeah, I'm using aiming systems here. And then second slot, you don't get a propulsion mod option. So I'm using steering gears. And then concealment there. And then gunfire control system for slot number 4, right? So, and then this is not Mr. Scrooge. Mr. Scrooge is a commander geist from like one of the Christmas events, right? So I'm using Bruce Fraser, right? So this is a free to play commander. I do have this person on here for more reload and shell grouping. And then Charles Madden is free to play as well for main battery traverse speed and reload time, because the guns do move a little bit slow on this ship. So I kind of went that direction, and then I go burn it down here. just because we're using the HE shells quite a bit. Same here, igniter at this spot here, and then light fortress for helping with damage. You could maybe movement speed would help with my complaint about the ship being slow. I'm not sure. And then fixated for better accuracy. You could use refill station. That's always a good choice. I'm using fully packed. I do like you'll get an extra heal with that. And since the heals work pretty good, I feel like fully packed's a good choice. But yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, if you have like some constructive criticism or tips with how to play the Drake. My assumption is I think a lot of people probably feel the same way, and that's why we just don't see the ship out there a lot. But it's one that I want to right? I want to do well with the ship because I like the guns, I like cruisers, and yeah, so I'm trying to have some better games with it. But I think it is probably one of my ones with my win percentage probably isn't the greatest. I haven't peeked at it recently, but yeah. But thanks for watching, guys. We do World of Warships Legends videos almost every day, right? So subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys tomorrow.